KDB with a sensational wonder strike from a free kick gives Man City the well-earned 3 points. They go top of the league. It was almost no Haaland, no party today. A lack of penetration in behind, but ended up not mattering due to the sheer brilliance. Again, another moment, another clutch performance, really, from Kevin De Bruyne. One of the best midfielders in Premier League history, without a shadow of a doubt. Well and truly inside my top 5, without a doubt. Well and truly inside my top 5 of all time. Not just for today's performance, but multiple performances like this. Multiple times winning the Premier League. Domestic trophy success as well. His overall ability. And what's really key is the consistency. KDB's level of performances over the past 5 to 6 years are one of the key reasons why Man City have been so successful. He's an absolute sensation of a football player. There is no doubt about that. An absolute sensation of a football player. He really, really is. And today was a key example of that. Leicester, very hard to break down. You've got a key player missing, not able to penetrate. So what does he do? He comes up with an absolute colossal goal to steal the 3 points. And the reason I point that out is because individual moments of brilliance probably went through a period of about 18 months where it was looked at as a negative for teams to need it, rely on it, or have it. When in fact, the majority of football has always been won by individual moments of brilliance within a good team structure. And that's why KDB is so special. Whether people like him or not, rate him or not, it's why he's so special. And the one thing I'd say is this. I'm one of these people that over the course of Premier League history, you'll often see other great players, for instance, Paul Scholes, played down. And people will say, oh, Paul Scholes can't be one of the greatest. He only looked good because he was in a great team. This has always been nonsense. Paul Scholes made Man United a great team. Kevin De Bruyne is one of the reasons why Man City are a great team. Because if they had all this passing and holding of possession, but they didn't have somebody that could score the goals he scores, create the opportunities he creates with such consistency, to maintain that level of concentration throughout the course of a game, when the first cross, the second cross, the third cross, the first through ball, the second through ball, the third through ball, the first, second, third shot doesn't go where you want it to, but to maintain the concentration and have the perseverance, enabling your ability to shine through at any minute from the first through to the 90th, the 95th, 96th, 97th. That's what makes KDB so special. And he is one of the catalysts as to why the system works for Pep Guardiola. And how good a player is key. KDB doesn't just show up once every 2 or 3 games and score a screamer. He doesn't turn up once every 2 or 3 games and like lead his team over the line. He is that good almost every single game he plays in. When KDB has an off day, you notice it, but they are so few and far between. That consistency is there. You then couple that into the trophies he's won. Forget individual trophies. I don't care about PFA Player of the Years, Teams of the Year, to a degree. The reason I don't care about that is because it's so biased and all about popularity. And why do I say this? Because every single year, all I see is people moaning. The Ballon d'Or happened. Everyone's moaning that certain players were in the top 5 and others weren't. Therefore, it's flawed, isn't it? Let's base it on what really matters in football. Consistency of performance, outputs, longevity stroke consistency, clutch performances in games, and the most important element of any football team ever in the world, winning trophies. There's a reason that Liverpool Football Club are seen as the most successful in English football history, because they've won the most, not because they played the nicest football, not because of the amount of times their players have been nominated for awards, but for how many trophies they have won. There's a reason Man United are the most successful Premier League team of all time, not because of how many teams of the year our players have been in, how many goal of the seasons we won, who had the best dribbling stats. It was based on how often we won the damn thing. And that's why I look at KDB as one of the greatest. Individual ability, individual outputs, longevity at this level now. He's gaining longevity, the consistency now. What, 5-6 years playing like this? I still think he's got more to come as well. And then it's winning those trophies at the end of the day. And for me, he's an absolute colossus. He's an absolute colossus of a player. He really is. And yeah, inside my top 5. And I'm not even going to look. I put Paul Scholes number 1. But KDB could surpass him. KDB could surpass Paul Scholes. If he keeps winning these Prems, he's got to add the Champions Leagues to it. And I'll tell you as to why. don't like doing this, right? And what's Champions League form got to do with a Premier League legendary status? Well, when your team is going deep into Champions Leagues, deep into the FA Cups, deep into the League Cups, therefore you typically go up against really hard teams, right? Generally, the deeper into these tournaments you get, the quality of your opponent improves. We say that's you're all football purists on the terrace. You get that. You agree. When you go deeper into those competitions, those games are intense. So if you're delivering in those intense games and then you come back to the Premier League at the weekend or midweek and you're equally as intense and you maintain your consistency, of course you've got to include it all. A team that is performing on all fronts, going deep in all competitions, including maintaining consistency in the Prem, that's a lot harder than a player who rarely went deep into a Champions League campaign, rarely won domestic trophies, or a player that's able to perform in a team that's very rarely in title races. KDB performs generally speaking, in the most pressured moments for footballers. That's why you have to include the total package of what a player is doing. And KDB is an absolute sensation and deserves these flowers. And I always feel a bit sorry for City players. Too many City players get disrespected in these polls for GOATs and greatest of all time in particular positions. And for me, I look at that as being my top 5. And then when we look at the top 10, I mean, he falls inside the top 10. Obviously, my top 10 are there, includes a few City players: Scholes, Lampard, Roy Keane, KDB, Vieira, David Silva, Gerrard, Yaya Toure, Kante. I'm really torn at the end between Michael Carrick and Cesc Fabregas. That's my personal top 10 based on my preferences. Everyone's will be a little bit different, but that's my top 10 midfielders of all time in the Premier League, based on, and I'll even be able to show you because I put it in there just for full disparity. I'll find you the tweet because I put it in here where it is. This is what I base it on, based on ability, outputs, clutch performances, longevity, stroke consistency, and trophies won during their time in the EPL. So, for instance, Claude Makelele isn't on there. That's because Claude Makelele's best days, in terms of individuals that have played in the Prem, he's probably in that list, right? Claude Makelele is a legend, but he didn't do his best work in the Prem. You know, it was a couple of years. So that's why he's not in that list, if that makes sense. No Haaland, no problem. KDB is the reason why City will win the major trophies, not Haaland, but he's a monster goal machine. Grealish is total trash. It's not one or the other. It's a combination. It's a combination. You need both Haaland and KDB to win the major honors. You can't rely on today. Today isn't a sustainable performance from City as in general because KDB won't score that free kick every game. How do we know this? I don't think anyone's ever scored more than 4 free kicks in a season, which means you can't rely on free kicks and screamers. I think only 8% of shots from outside the box go in. So you can't rely on that. You need finishers. I think what really stood out to me today is a lot of people that felt that Julian Alvarez was going to have a better season than Haaland. Haaland is the truth, my friend. He is the truth. Rodri is the best DM in the world. Grealish looked good. Akanji is the most underrated signing of the season. Bison, I agree with you on that. Akanji, I was watching him today, and there's a lot of talk about how good Saliba has been since he came back, how good Lissandro Martinez has been. Akanji's very underrated. I haven't seen him put a foot wrong. I haven't seen him make a mistake. I haven't seen him look like a fish out of water. He has been sensational. And he's got that. He's also given City that extra bit of strength and athleticism at the back to be able to cope with balls in over the top, which they needed in that second half. And by the way, they did actually have a few opportunities as well at Leicester. I thought Daka had that header, should have controlled it. He had time. And there's a great shot from Yuri Tillemans as well, wonderfully saved by Edison, and everything else. So there was opportunities for Leicester in that game. So City weren't flawless. They can be got at, but the quality is there. The goalie saves them. Defenders getting those last-ditch tackles in. Very good game in the end. It just took about 70 minutes to fucking warm up, but it was a good game in the end. KDB is the third greatest Premier League midfielder already. Once he's done, he'll be number 1. Easy. 2 players of the year awards, could win 3. Another PL title, multiple assists and goals, big game player. Listen, I agree with everything you've said there, barring the player awards. I don't really care about them. They're based on popularity, and I really like this guy. You've got to remember, like, the year that Man United won the treble, David Ginola won Player of the Year. He wasn't the best player in the Prem that year. It should have. There were so many other people in that Man United team who probably deserved it. David Beckham, Paul Scholes, you could even argue, and the partnership that year between Andy Cole and Dwight York was legendary. But what normally, I'm not taking it away from KDB. He deserves it. I just don't get involved in those conversations. And I felt that way my whole footballing life. When Man United players win it, I'm like, great, cool. I don't care either. You won't see me like, oh my God, my player's the best. He won the award. I don't care about them. I just need to wait until Man United play well again to prove that to you, but you'll see it. But he could become the best. There's no doubt. He needs to add those European trophies. He needs to add them because the best guys, the Lampards and the Scholeses of this world, the Roy Keanes, have those nights as well. The reason why Roy Keane's so high on my list is not only was he a very good footballer, people forget that, this guy captained the team to win a treble and be the first Premier League team to do a three-peat. That is, to be able to do that in a very tough era is immense. But KDB is on his way. He's absolutely on his way. He's already in that conversation. It can't be denied or scoffed at all. I agree. Let's have a look here. Terry, you beautiful man. Thank you very much, Jacob. I appreciate the compliment. I'm a bit of a fat man at the minute rather than beautiful, but thank you. We have improved, and I'm happy. We are starting to look like we will pull away from the relegation zone. Rodgers had a plan, and it nearly worked. Yeah, Leicester look a lot better. Leicester look so much better now than they did 3 or 4 weeks ago. There is no doubt. And they were a little bit unlucky today. They were undone by a free kick of sheer brilliance. That was essentially it. They held their own defensively against who many call the best team in England, maybe the best team in Europe. I didn't look at the statistical breakdown, but I will now. I mean, it was 10 shots to 15. In terms of those shots being on target, 5 each. Possession, of course, was with City. In terms of chances, it was fairly even, really. But yeah, Leicester, I think, will be okay. I think they need some signings in January, but I think Leicester will be okay. Terry, top 3 is Makaleli, Kante, Essien. Essien's a great shout. I didn't even think about Essien, and that's the thing. Everyone's got an idea. My views, I don't really care who's on your top 5 and top 10. They've just got to make sense. If someone includes Makaleli, Kante, Essien, I'm not going to argue. Brilliant players. Brilliant top-class players. Definitely got a shout. Definitely got a shout to be in there. And they all won the Premier League. Like, I think you've got to be in the top 5. You've got to have won it. You've got to have led your team over that line. You have to. Imagine being like, I'll give you an example. Just write yes if you think that R9 is the greatest striker in the history of football. Just write yes. Or in the top 3 strikers in the history of football, is R9 that guy? Is R9 one of the greatest strikers in the history of football? I just want a yes or no right now in the comment section from you. Bear with me on this because I've got a point. We've got yes, yes, no, yes. I'm waiting for some more comments to come through. Let's do this. Yes, no, yes, yes, no, yes. Loads more yeses than no's, right? But he isn't in the top 10 strikers in the history of the Champions League. He isn't. Because he didn't score enough or win it. He isn't. I don't think you'd put him in the top 10 strikers in Champions League history or attackers in Champions League history. Definitely not top 5. You wouldn't, because he didn't do it there. So but his ability still makes him one of the greatest strikers ever, right? So I'm talking about what someone has done in the Premier League. And you've got to have won it to be one of the top people, in my opinion. On ability, that changes the conversation. Ability, I think I have Gerrard third. I think when I did my top 3 on ability only, where it's only on ability, so you take out everything else. Yeah, on ability, that's my top 3. That's my top 5. And again, you could put JJ Kocher in there. You could put Yaya in there. You could put Cesc Fabregas in there. There's loads of names that could be in that list. And we'll all agree and disagree. But it changes when you take away clutch performances, consistency and longevity, and the trophies. It changes for me. Really key. GK says, Terry, KDB will go down as the greatest midfielder of all time. You are a beautiful man. Remember, you need to eat good calories, not junk calories. Oh, I know I need to eat good, but I'm just living my best life right now, my friend. I say that until I die like Elvis on a toilet of a heart attack, but I watched the Elvis film last night. That's why it's in my head. Crazy film. I learned a lot of stuff from that. Gerrard above KDB, and that's a fair point. Listen, if people want to put Gerrard above KDB, I'm fine. This is the crazy thing for me. I'm not emotional about it. I'm just giving you my point of view. I think winning the trophy is important. I think winning trophies counts. Liverpool are the most successful team in Europe from England because they've won more trophies than anybody else. I don't care that you might have a team that play better football in Europe. I don't care that you might be able to find a team that's been to more semis and finals combined than Liverpool. I don't know if that even exists. I'm just making these stats up right now to prove a point that I don't care about any of those records. I don't care if Man United have more players in the greatest Champions League team of all time to come out from the Prem than Liverpool. They're still the most successful because they've won the damn thing the most, you know? And that matters. That matters hugely to me. It really does. Was it JJ Kocher? No, Demba Jemba, no. Again, what people will do is go, well, Paul, Darren Fletcher's won them and Jemba Jemba's won them. Does that make them better? No, I didn't say it was the only criteria, did I? Ability, output, longevity, clutch moments, trophies. So the Darren Fletchers and the JJ Kochers and the Luke Chadwicks don't throw that straw man argument in. If you ever see someone tweet response with that argument when you mention winning trophies matters, ignore them. It's a straw man argument. It isn't worth your oxygen or your energy because you're not stating that's the only factor. But it is a big factor. It is a big factor along with the others. If I just said it's based on who's won the most trophies, that's stupid. I didn't say that. But I know you're only joking with that comment, my friend. We're going to do some calls in a moment. We've got Patrick and V to come on. Terry, where's Burkamp? Oh, you guys didn't see it, did you? Legitimately, this just some people get angry for no. I had two of them. Some guy tweeted me this. This explains why I hate Cristiano Ronaldo. He's easily in the top 5 midfielders of all time in the Premier League. Legit. Somebody wrote that. And this is the other one. Let me scroll down to my other tweet. Look at this. Look at this one here. Why is Dennis Bergkamp not on the list? Why is Dennis Bergkamp not on the list, the man said. And these same people are arguing with my top 5. They don't even know what a midfielder is. They don't. Can we talk about Almiron? Grealish just revived his career and ended his own at City. Where is Carrick in the top 10? Carrick is in my top 10, and Carrick deserves to be in the top 10. Michael Carrick was a sensational and probably the most underrated midfielder in the history of the Premier League, no doubt. Gerrard not in the top 25, big up. No, Gerrard is. Gerrard's in my top 10 because he did win domestic trophies. He did win European trophies. He was an outstandingly good footballer. This is the point, though. I don't make up these lists to attack Gerrard with. I have my standards. Like, my standards for being a great manager or legendary manager is you've got to have won back-to-back league titles and the Champions League. Or have a superior amount of one of those accolades. So have sort of be in the top 5% for most league titles or top percentile for the most Champions Leagues won. There's got to be like if you're gonna make it past my little gateway, there's got to be an anomaly stat in your favor, like Carlo Ancelotti. Does that make sense? Because of how many Champions Leagues he's won. But I have that benchmark because I want greatness. I want greatness and legendary status to be have a finite amount of people in it. You can't have 1,000 legends. It doesn't make sense. There's got to be a gateway. And I think winning things is key. And this is what people that don't support teams that win trophies don't understand this. It's my issue with Harry Kane. World-class footballer, world-class finisher, but not a legend of the game. Got to win trophies. He can't be the only high-scoring striker in the history of European football to be in the legendary camp who ain't won a trophy. He can't come in. Unless he scores an abnormal amount of goals that nobody else gets near. And he doesn't. If he'd scored more goals than anyone else in the history of football but never won a trophy, there'd be an argument. But he hasn't. So he can't be in it. I'm not attacking Kane. I'm protecting legends. Imagine this, Liverpool fans. Another team can claim to be the best team in Europe ever with less European trophies than you. How would that ever make sense? So how can you be the greatest midfielder in the Premier League ever having never won it? It doesn't make sense because how you perform, how KDB is performing now, for instance, season after season after season after season, when they're in title races and they're being chased and pressured, makes his performance levels even better than someone who's performing in a team that is 6th. Because there's no pressure or a different level of pressure. And I know Liverpool fans understand there's a difference between the pressure in games when you're challenging for a title and the pressure in games when you're in 6th. because you've been in both those positions and it feels different. My team right now is in 6th. I feel less pressure in my games now than when we were going toe-to-toe with Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Newcastle for Prems. So to perform in those high-pressured games is harder than performing in non-pressured games or games with less pressure. That should never be discounted. We have to protect legends. We have to protect heroes. We have to protect brilliant teams. We have to protect world-class managers from being put in categories with people that don't compete with them. It's like saying Anthony Joshua, because he had a world title, is on par with Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali. No, because you look at the CV and the people they beat and the pressure they were up against to achieve those results. You can't say AJ's as good as Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali just because he's won a world title. He's a world champion. He's a world level fighter, but he ain't no legend. He ain't beat no one. He ain't beat no top class fighter in his era in their pomp. I love AJ, by the way. Love the geezer. But he ain't Muhammad Ali. He ain't Mike Tyson. He ain't Lennox Lewis. So we have to protect legendary statuses. We have to protect the best. And we can't just say, oh, you get a pass and you get a pass. You get a pass. You can come into the club. Oh, I know you never won a back-to-back league title. I know you never won a Champions League. But you can sit with the legends. No, I don't like it. And I'm no bias in this. There's no bias in this because I'm propping up a City player. You know, when it comes to the... I'll prop up Liverpool when it comes to the trophy. They're the most successful because they've won the most. You can't argue with it. You can't argue with it. Saka over KDB. Love that. Absolutely love that. That's funny. And I know it's facts, my friend. I know it's facts. I know it's facts. You can't take away from it. Right, Patrick's on now to have his say. A victory today for Man City. They go top of the league. I think I've kind of forgot about that in my ranting. What are you saying, Patrick?
First of all, Terry, thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on. Such a beautiful day. For those people who are crying on Twitter, I don't get why they're crying. Getting a 1-0 win against Leicester City with the occasion they have. Rest in peace to the owner and much respect to him. Such a lovely fellow who helped the club. It's very difficult. And Leicester City had a game plan and it worked, Terry. But I have a little number piece. Leicester, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when City come for you? That's it. For the Leicester fans who were saying, for the Leicester fans who were saying they're gonna beat us because they're in good form, that we had 4 clean sheets. There you go. It's a 1-0. Let me just answer something on Jack Grealish, Terry. What I've noticed in football, and I've listened to you multiple times, and that's why I respect and I've always watched you ever since the first time I saw you wearing a suit outside or in a car. I used to be there, Terry, when you were doing those videos. People just watch football for stats and goals. And you're right about the Ronaldo thing. R9 is the best striker, but they forget that he doesn't have a Champions League. Yet these days, most of these kids who are obsessed with stats will say, oh, De Bruyne, we can't put him because he has no UCL. Jack Grealish is playing one of the best football he is for City. Right now, City, when Jack is not there, will look bad. He's been playing very well, but all they're looking at is goals and assists. If there's no goals and assists, I think your name, it doesn't go up there as one of the best. That's why you're right. Those individual awards sometimes are not great because nobody looks at somebody who's actually having a great season. Like last season, Rodri was the best midfielder. I can be honest, like best midfielder, did he make it to the Premier League Team of the Year? No. Who made it? Thiago, because he does step overs and nutmegs, and then he does his farm like this and high fives and has nice passes. That's what it is. So it's you have to be popular, and people have to love you for stats. So anyway, keep going.
No, listen, I hear you. Look, Liverpool fans went through this. I would say like 3 or 4 years ago, Mane was the guy that Liverpool fans propped up as the poster boy of their brilliant team. And then they kind of switched their attention to Mo Salah. And I think they realized, if we'd have propped up Mo Salah sooner, he might have won a Ballon d'Or. But we didn't. We sided with Mane. Man United fans went through this. This is the crazy thing. As a kid growing up, Paul Scholes, Beckham was my favorite player, but I was in tight. I love Beckham. We're from the same town, but I was impressed by the smoke and mirrors and the lights and the fanfare and the fame that Beckham had. Beckham wasn't a better footballer than Paul Scholes, but he
wasn't at all.
He wasn't. And by the way, Beckham was world class, but Scholes was better, but he was just understated. Scholes was this quiet little man. Ironically, he's very noisy now since he's left. He was just quiet little guy.
No PR.
No PR, no agent. And the agent's a big thing. If Paul Scholes would have had an agent, flaunting them about, if he'd have been at movie premieres, if he culturally would have been a fun person to be around like Beckham was. Beckham was a socialite as much as anything else. One of the reasons why I think Aguero doesn't really get discussed as much as he should in GOAT conversations is he was a very unassuming, quiet guy that you never, ever heard from. And I think that popularity plays a huge part in this. And we've all seen this with the Ballon d'Or. We've all seen a few years in the Ballon d'Or where we've gone, I don't actually think Messi or Ronaldo deserves it this year. They were consistently in the top 3 because the Ballon d'Or award needed their fame and popularity. And it's going to get worse now with social media. The guys that are going to get propped up consistently will be the individuals that have the biggest followings, who have the biggest fan bases around them. And how do we know this? For the last 3 or 4 big awards that I've seen given out, all I've seen on socials is controversy. You had it with J5. J5 had a good year, but because he had so much of the English press behind him, because they kind of wanted a Prem player to maybe win the Ballon d'Or, everybody got behind this idea, and he got elevated to another level. You speak to
nothing he was doing.
Chelsea fans are like, he's performing now like he was then, but no one's bigging it up. So now that no one's bigging him up anymore, he's gone back to being an average midfielder. Popularity and all the fame that comes with it changes people's perceptions. That's why I remove it. I remove it from my view as a general rule. I'll throw it in if someone else uses it as an argument, right? But as a general rule, I look at things. I look at your outputs for the position you play in. I look at your consistency. I look at your clutch performances. And a lot of people go, well, that's scoring a goal in a final and everything else. It isn't just that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's how you perform week in, week out in high pressure situations. The reason why I put Paul Scholes is, the reason why I put Frank Lampard's, the reason why I put Patrick Vieira's, the reasons why I put Roy Keane's in my top 5 is because of how long their Premier League teams were consistently title challengers, and how every single game when you're in a title challenge is high pressure. And these guys performed in 85, 90, 95% of them. That, for me, is beyond just having an amazing final or having an amazing semi-final, which all of those guys, by the way, had at one point or another. And there's a comment here that I want to point to. It says, Terry's ratings are devoid of context. How is Fabregas meant to win as much trophies as the others when Arsenal were in a stadium transition? Listen, Arsenal, back from like 03-04 when Fabregas made his debut to when they left, were considered title contenders and one of the favorites to win the Champions League in every single one of those seasons. Let us not rewrite history here. Arsenal were not a bad team then. Arsenal were
never.
2 or 3 of those seasons. Arsenal were like clear at the top, and they threw it away and crumbled. And you're part of that. You're part of that. If Man United had 3 or 4 times where our team were running away with the league or top or considered favorites and we collapsed, your team, your members of your team are responsible for that. We didn't though. We didn't. And Cesc Fabregas gets into my top 10. And some people might have. And by the way, Fabregas is a hard one. Fabregas is an amazing player. But to say that Arsenal's team when Fabregas was there were rubbish from the start is bullshit. Bullshit.
Those are the excuses, though, Terry. And this reminds me of this. No offense to Liverpool fans, because every time I've had an argument with the Liverpool fans, when I'm talking about Premier League, I say Premier League midfielders. I go with the same top, Terry, the one you've said. I go with something similar. They get pissed off and say, where is Steve Gerrard? You have no idea what you're talking about. I was like, but the man never even won a Prem. He slipped down and his team lost. That wasn't meant to be a dig, but I'm trying to say, you've never won it. And yes, he was performing, but some of these guys performed and won their teams this Premier League, and they were the ones who were like at the spotlight. Like Patrick Vieira, believe it or not, everybody had a Patrick Vieira jersey in Malawi, and Roy King's jersey was in Malawi, and Malawi is a small country. I never saw a Stevie Gerrard because these were the people performing. Even Paul Scholes was worshipped by many people that this guy can play football. So sometimes it's just unfortunate, Terry, that if you don't have good PR, if you don't have people who talk about you all the time, the media doesn't back you, maybe your agent doesn't associate most of these media people, nobody cares at the end of the day.
Like the popularity side. So I got this tweet at me here by Rebecca. Nice lady. She says, winning more doesn't make you more talented midfielder. Matt Letizia was one of the most talented strikers that ever graced the Premier League, and he won nothing. My question is, how did he perform in title races? How did Matt Letizia perform in title races? We have no idea. So we can't put him in a category with the people that performed in title races, because as Liverpool fans, you know that challenging for titles is far more pressurized than challenging for 10th place. It is,
Imagine.
in my opinion. And the thing is, I didn't just say one more. I said did more, achieve more, one more, and or were better. So you're literally removing all the things I said and just focusing on one more.
Agenda. This is what happens, Terry. People have got agendas and they don't like the fact that their favorite player is not in a list or whoever they thought they liked. When you're doing these things, especially for Terry, for somebody who does YouTube, you have to remove the biasness. You have to have a categories of things, because in one way you be exposed, isn't it, Terry? You get exposed by people. So Terry has told you what he bucks people with, or how he determines who is in his top 5, which is fair. Then you like say, oh no, so and so did this, or he could pass, but what position was he? He was always in 7th position. His team never had pressure. That's why people, when they go to a big team from a small team, you wonder why they don't play as good as they were, because of the pressure. The shirt is heavy, but people forget that. So that's all, Terry. That's all I can say. For me, De Bruyne, by the end of it, you're right. He's 31 years old. By the time he gets 35 years old, he's got a 4-year contract. I think he will surpass a lot of midfielders, and people will be salty.
And one of the reasons why I have Paul Scholes also at the top, because people talk ability. If at 38, turning 39, so he was 38 and a half when he achieved this. If you're still able to play, if KDB, and this is where like I rate Ryan Giggs so highly as well. 38 years of age, Paul Scholes was still playing it played many games. I think he played 16 in his final season, and many of them important games in a title-winning Premier League season, and didn't look out of place. The only reason he didn't play more games is because at 38, he didn't have the physicality to play every single game. But Paul Scholes, and this is what I talk about around longevity, you can't deny it. Even like Frank Lampard, and if you actually look at Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard and all these guys, at Scholes' age of winning his last Premier League title with 38, at the same age, these men were like in the MLS or already coaching.
Yeah.
And people, and right now, one of the most popular things to say on socials is availability is the best ability. Well, if at 38 my player is still available and able to dominate midfields and win Premier Leagues, and availability is the best ability, then he has ability that surpasses all your players. And this is the thing. I don't have agendas. I've been saying this since before social media was a thing. And I'm seeing loads of people online come for me saying, oh, you can't just say one more. Read my fucking tweets. I didn't say one more. You're the one finishing it to that. I said done more, achieve more consistent, and one more. And the final bit I said, and or were better. Why are you ignoring that? Why are you
look at the comments, Terry? Look at that comment over there. I knew somebody was gonna get triggered. I said no offense. He said Gerrard has scored 180 goals. How much has your De Bruyne scored? I don't get it. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. Can I tell you something, Terry? Apparently, there's a man. I forgot his name. He's in China or something. He's now in his 40s. He's one of the highest goal scorers in the world. You know that, right? I'll get you his name. He's one of the highest goal scorers in the world. None of us know him. None of you in the comments, some of you would. None of us know him. He's actually up there with Ronaldo and them. Like his numbers are amazing. But does that mean that he's a fabulous player? No. He just finishes. It's just people have to understand we've got 2 eyes to watch. Don't just go look at stats just because somebody assisted 150 times.
I think what people also misunderstanding here is I think Gerrard's brilliant. But yeah, Gerrard got 100. Yeah. Gerrard got 191 goals in his career, and that was in 749 games. KDB has played 200 games less and has 135 goals. In those same amount of games, in 749 games, Gerrard assisted 168 goals. So in 200 less games, KDB has already got 216 assists. So KDB's output, so if you actually add this up, if someone wants to use just stats with KDB and Gerrard as players, just stats, right? KDB, 216 assists and 135 goals. So he has 355 goal contributions in 551 games, which gives him an efficiency rate of 63%. Steven Gerrard, okay, brilliant numbers, 168 plus 191. So he has 359 goal contributions. So they're basically on par with each other now. But in many, many, many more games, 749 games. Sorry, let me do that again. 369 divided by 749. So Gerrard's efficiency is 47%. So the point is KDB is around 15% more efficient if you're going to go stats only. So just on stats, KDB's better. So even when you throw stats into this, KDB is better. And then you've got to throw the amount of league titles won, the amount of domestic trophies won. The only thing Gerrard has on him
UCL.
is Champions League. Statistically, KDB's better. Performances in title, clutch, and you could probably argue Gerrard has some of the most famous clutch moments in
good goals from outside the box.
Amazing.
Good goals,
and that's why I have Gerrard in my top 10 still. Like Gerrard, I think is the only player in my top 10 who hasn't won a Premier League because he has won UCLs, he has won domestic trophies, and his statistical output was massive. But there's loads of players in that category who have great stats, great clutch moments, great consistency, but they also won the trophy. And people say these things like this. They go, well, if Gerrard would have left and gone to Chelsea, he definitely would have won. We don't know.
But he didn't.
He didn't do it, though. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. If R9's body didn't break down, he might have scored and won even more, but he didn't. And if availability is the best ability, you can't take that away. It's crazy to me. I'm not having a pop at Gerrard. I didn't even mention Gerrard's name. You, man.
It was me. I did. And look at this. The thing is, this is what I don't like. That's what I'm saying. I can criticize De Bruyne. Like at the end of the day, when somebody says Paul Scholes is better than De Bruyne, I accept because I remember when I was watching Paul Scholes, he was a player. But people have to learn to remove all the bias and just look at football. And somebody just commented that Terry says, watch football, don't just look at stats. Terry's really
Another guy responded, I like this guy. He's gone, by that logic, Tim Sherwood was better than Gerrard because he achieved more league titles. Why are you ignoring the list of did more, achieved more, won more, and or were better?
Clutch moments. He also mentioned that, yeah.
So I got to respond. Why are you ignoring all the other elements I mentioned in the tweet and just focusing on one more, right? And this is the point, though. The reason they're focusing on one more is because this guy's a Spurs fan. Kane. It's Spurs. When it comes to the one more argument, the only two fan bases that really fight with you are Liverpool fans protecting Gerrard and Spurs fans protecting Harry Kane. They're the biased ones because my logic means at some point my own players are going to fall off this list, but you won't see me change my logic. It's not about bias. It's about having high standards.
There's one there, Terry, for you. There's
crazy.
one for you, Terry, that says Gerrard no PL, Kevin no PL. What are you even talking about? Like, that's the issue. We're talking when he put the list, he said Premier League midfielders.
Yeah, and again, I get it. So this is a great one. What about Letizia? I've already mentioned this. How did Letizia perform in title-winning seasons? How did he perform in Champions League runs? How did Letizia handle having massive Champions League games on Wednesdays and massive Premier League games on Saturdays from February through till May? The answer is he didn't. So he doesn't. His ability is brilliant. It makes him very good. But we don't know how he performed in those areas. So he has to put himself into a team where that happens for him to be on par with Aguero's.
Yeah.
To be on par with Wayne Rooney's, Eric Cantona's, Thierry Henry's, Dennis Bergkamp's. He has to do that. You know, Mo Salah's. He can't compete with those guys as attackers and forwards because he didn't put himself into a position where he was being judged on an even playing field. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I have a good one for you, Terry. I listened to it days ago, but I was going to work, so I couldn't join the space. So there was a debate between Drogba and Kane. So somebody said in the Premier League, Drogba is better. Then somebody came, a Spurs fan, believe it or not, says Kane is better because Kane has scored more goals than Drogba. Then somebody brought him down and said the same thing. It's like, I get where you're coming from, but Drogba has been very pivotal in Chelsea's title wins. So I don't know. How do you dissect that one, Terry, between Kane and somebody like Drogba? Drogba, who obviously his numbers get beat by few strikers, but he was very crucial in very important moments.
Again, and that's key. As a goal scorer, Harry Kane's clear of him. Clear.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
absolutely
he is. Yeah,
clear. But as I said, if you look at my breakdown, it's what you've won, clutch moments, longevity, outputs, and overall ability. And when you add all those things up, if you were to create a matrix and tick the boxes, the only one that Harry Kane has over Drogba is probably you could argue ability and outputs, but when it comes to clutch moments, longevity, stroke consistency, and winning the trophies, Drogba's clear in 3. But Drogba's ability and goal scoring ratios were still very good. So you tick all 3 boxes for Drogba. Yes, in some of those categories, Kane outweighs him, but Drogba ticks all the boxes. Kane doesn't. And that's how I look at these things. And it's like, how many of the boxes do you tick? And if you've got people that are ticking 4, 5, 6 of these boxes, and one guy ticking 1 or 2, you don't get in unless unless those tick boxes, your numbers and your outputs are an absolute anomaly compared to everybody else. So if Harry Kane ends his career on more goals than Lionel Messi and Ronaldo, then it's a different conversation. But he won't. He'll end his career in that mix of top class strikers. But then he has to put himself into a club where not winning trophies creates a massive outcry. And that's the thing. If you go to Bayern Munich, if you go to Barca, Real Madrid, Liverpool, you have to win trophies.
You have to.
And the thing is with Liverpool fans, they step outside their own club's remit when it comes to defending Gerrard because they start talking about trophies aren't important. Liverpool are such a massive club and so famous because of the trophies they've won. Suddenly, for one player, they want to ignore.
That's why they are. Yeah.
Listen, Patrick, I really appreciate you coming on, mate.
There's somebody saying his name is Victor. Says, read my super chat. It's a question for Patrick, so I don't know what he's on about.
Oh, okay. Let me go back to this. Patrick, what's your YouTube and name and Twitter account?
Oh, my Twitter account is Patrick True City Fan, and the channel is Patrick True City Fan. Thank you very much, Terry and Victor. That's it. Patrick True City Fan and Patrick True City Fan again on Twitter. Very much. Thank you very much, Terry. I'll watch the rest of the show anyway. Thank you. Very exciting.
Cheers,
to the
mate.
guys watching, like the vid. Terry's doing a good. Like the vid. Goodbye.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much indeed. V-Man's here. What you saying, V? You're on mute, bro.
What's good? What's good?
How you doing?
Thanks for having me on. I'm all right, man. I'm all right. What a game. What a game. You see the background going on right there. I'm having flashbacks of what's needed. We need magical moments to win games like those.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Are you worried? Are you worried about the situation? 1-0 Brighton, people. 1-0 Brighton. Are you worried about no Haaland, or you think he'll be okay if he's out for a few more games?
No, you know what? I'm not worried. I'm not worried. And I mean, I got a humble channel, Terry. I don't get many views, you know what I mean? But I talked on the channel about City fans and City, the team, needing to be patient. Like, we need to be patient in attack, because when you have teams of the quality of Liverpool, you have a challenging manager like Klopp, who chooses to like drop his defensive line back and choose to attack us on the counter. What are we going to expect from other clubs? What are we going to expect from clubs like Leicester? Right? Like, they're going to take that same approach. Leicester today had 2 banks of 5 defending against us. So we just need to be patient. We don't need to lose our heads. We have the quality on the pitch, even if Haaland's not there. Now, Haaland is a great cheat code. I'm not lying here. He's a great cheat code, but we still have enough quality to win. And we're not going to look great when we're up against teams that sit back or defend 2 banks of 5. Like, we just need to relax.
Yeah, listen. I wouldn't say Haaland's a cheat code. I just think he's the best striker in the Premier League, and of course you're going to miss him when he's out your team. I think what today showed me though is that you're still going to have enough quality to win the league with a couple of injuries. You're still the favorite team, but this notion that, like, you know, like Arsenal and Spurs have been ridiculed that if you lose 1 or 2 of your best players, things could get peak. Well, if you guys lost KDB and Haaland for 2 months at the same time, if you didn't say that from between now and February, you lost those players. I'm talking 2 months of football because of the break we're about to get. If the league returns in December and Haaland and KDB are missing until March, that makes it that will create a title race, because every team needs their best players, irrespective of the manager and what's going on. But look, it's a good win for yourselves today. Puts a lot of pressure on Arsenal tomorrow.
The point as well is we also don't panic though. Like, the expectation is for Pep, with those players being out, to then devise a system and an attack without them, right? So I think that's where some of these other fans are losing their minds, because they don't quite have the trust in their manager to find an alternative, to find option B, option C. I'm not stressed out. I think it's Pep being like load managing Haaland. Yeah, it's a little niggle is what he calls it, and just keeping him out. The same thing happened earlier. Cancelo having a fever and having them out, but Pep is just managing the team. We're fine. That result is fantastic when you really look at how we are being defended against. And look, Company did it. KDB. Oh, Kevin De Bruyne. Man did his thing.
He absolutely did. V, really appreciate you coming on, mate, and having your say. Top man. Chat to you soon, brother. and everybody that tuned in. A massive shout out to all of you. What's your top 5 CMs just based on ability? Just based on ability. I also tweeted this if you go to my Twitter feed. Just on ability, my personal favorite, personal preference, Scholes, KDB, Gerrard, David Silva, Patrick Vieira, purely on footballing ability only. So no stats, no trophies, no clutch moments, just on ability, those guys. But listen, there's so many shout outs that could go into that. JJ Okocha, Yaya Toure, Cesc Fabregas. But it's just preference in terms of who I enjoyed watching. So yeah, Gerrard's in my top 3 when it comes to ability, no doubt. But when you factor in everything else, and I did have someone just tweet me a minute ago saying, but Gerrard was at that club. Gerrard was at Liverpool. It's not his fault. He could have just left. You always have a choice to leave. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you soon. We're live after Chelsea, Brighton, and the Tottenham game this afternoon. So make sure you're back on the terrace. We'll